I think it's safe to say that the relationship between the Israeli government has never been worse towards an American president for more than 2 decades. And that has an impact on this region. And I think, unfortunately, it's had an impact here.
All right, folks, welcome to Gimme 5. Marco Rubio, might I remind you, a Republican, coming out, giving about a 19-minute floor speech in support of the state of Israel and their actions inside the Gaza Strip, explaining the whole situation and talking about the poor relationship that this president has established with the state of Israel. And again, today, the president, while defending Israel's right to blow up the tunnels in Gaza and defend herself, still in all very concerned about civilian casualties. Well, you know, you can't have it both ways. War is hell, is it not? I mean, what do you want from Israel? And Marco Rubio makes that clear as he goes along. Here's more.
I've also been concerned, by the way, by some of this moral equivalence that's going on in both the press and some of the emails that I'm getting and some of the public statements I'm hearing some make in some quarters, not here in the Senate, but in some other places. This idea that, well, both sides are to blame. That's an interesting concept, but it isn't true. It is tragic, unfortunately, that civilians are dying in Gaza. But the reason why civilians are dying is 100% Hamas's fault.
Yep, it is 100% Hamas's fault, the reason civilians are dying. Somebody tell that to President Obama, because he doesn't seem to get the message. He doesn't seem to understand that a terrorist organization is using their own. They just found rockets at a UN school in Gaza. That's how the terrorists operate. Somebody should tell the president. Want more on Hamas? Here's Marco Rubio.
You see, this is an organization that puts rockets and military installations right next to nurseries and hospitals and civilian population centers. And you know why they do that? You know why they do that? They do that because they know that when they launch a rocket, Israel will respond by hitting that rocket launcher. And when that rocket launcher is destroyed, so are the areas around it. And then they can get the cameras to go in there and say, look what Israel did. They wiped out a nursery or an apartment building. They do it on purpose. They know exactly what they're doing.
They do indeed. Why can't our president stand before the world and say what Marco Rubio is saying? Why does he present this moral equivalency? Why does he warn Israel about civilians? Why doesn't he tell the world that every civilian death, the blood is on the hands of Hamas? More.
Israel does extraordinary things with regards to this. They drop leaflets into population centers warning, we're going to have to conduct a military operation in your region. Please evacuate. Please go somewhere else where you'll be safe. Hamas doesn't do that. In fact, Hamas deliberately targets population centers to terrorize the people of Israel. And we should condemn it for what it is. There is no moral equivalence here.
Thank you, Marco Rubio, and might I add, Republican. Now, as far as the tunnels that Israel is now engaged in finding and destroying, search and destroy mission to eradicate those tunnels, here's a little education for you. Not from the President of the United States, who sees Hamas the same as Israel, but from Marco Rubio.
And these ground operations that they're conducting has to do with a tunnel network in Gaza that, as early as this morning, was used by Hamas to try to infiltrate terrorists through those tunnels into Israel, to conduct terrorist activity and kill Israelis. So put yourself in the position of this country, small and geographically isolated, surrounded by terrorist groups and some unfriendly countries, threatened by the prospect of an Iranian nuclear weapon, and being hit by 1,300 rockets in just the last week. They have no choice but to defend themselves, using all the power at their disposal.
Wow, how refreshing that is. How darn refreshing that is when day after day you have a State Department yesterday taking Israel to task. Today you have a president coming out and saying, I spoke to Benjamin Netanyahu, and while I defend his right to defend himself, but, you know, how
20 people were hurt.
Old is that, huh? I don't know what that was, folks, but let's ignore it and just let's think about what Marco Rubio had to say right here on the Steve Malzberg Show.